have
She
Robyn on today.
she has her own story about how mental health has impacted her. She's a professional in her own right. Is Robyn on yet?
I'm here.
Excellent. Oh, Robyn, good morning.
Good morning, Robyn. Good morning.
Welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Gosh, I wish I was with y'all. It sounds like so much fun there.
Oh,
This is an inaugural show. We're all back on air in the studio
I don't know,
together.
Robyn.
This is awesome.
You may be a lot safer where you are. Just saying. Just saying. Well, I'm going to let Patty introduce you, and then let's get right into the conversation. So, Patty, tell us about Robyn.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Robyn and I have met since COVID, so we've met via Zoom and not in person, but I feel like she's like a bestie for all of my life. It's one of those people that you just connect with.
Right.
Introduced to us by a mutual friend and professional, somebody who's been on our show before, Dr. Cynthia Bulick. And Robyn, let's just get right into your history. We always like to queue up with why are you qualified to be on the show this morning? What's your story? Just get us in the game.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So as Patty said, we met through Dr. Cynthia Bulick. I have had an eating disorder my whole life and gave a TED Talk about sharing my personal story in 2018. Got connected with Dr. Bulick sometime after that. She introduced me to Patty because I'm somebody that I'm biased towards action. I don't like free time. And always want to be advocating for, mental health parity, especially around eating disorders and, prevention and early intervention and successful treatment. And because of I basically had an eating disorder since I was 8 in some way, shape, or form. I'm an authority on eating disorders.
Yes, Robyn, you really are. I know that storytelling is a really, really important aspect of how you advance, and I want to get into that, but is there anything that you want to share about what you do during the day or who you work with or anything like that before we jump into that very important, passionate subject for you?
Yeah, so my full-time job is with the amazing Johnson & Johnson. And at Johnson & Johnson, I work in a quality role, but I'm also on the leadership team for the Mental Health Diplomats. And that is an employee resource group that's really dedicated to changing the way people think about mental health. And they are doing incredible work literally around the world in providing not just funding, but also resources and safe spaces for people to really engage around mental health.
Robyn, you brought something up just now that I want to touch on and ask you to expand on. You said around the world, and one of the last times that you and I spoke, you were getting into a webinar or you were just coming out of one where you were helping and coaching people in another country. What were you doing?
Oh my goodness, Patty, that was a moment in my life, and this was just last week that I thought, wow, I might be legit.
You are legit, Robyn.
Well, not really, but I was helping colleagues to shape a specific story around mental health in Rwanda.
Wow.
It really was very, very moving for me. And I felt, everybody says, oh, I'm so privileged to be a part of something, but I really was privileged to be a part of it. Helping to tell the story of mental health in Rwanda.
So this might be a good time then, Robyn, to start that segue, because I want to make sure that you have time to tell your story about storytelling, and you touched upon how helpful it was to you as you began to form your story. So do you want to share about that?
Sure. So a couple of years ago, I heard many influential speakers talk about their own mental health issues or their own time in therapy. And they made me realize that I have nothing to be ashamed of in sharing the stories that shaped me. And so I went through the process of developing a TED Talk and then delivering it in front of an audience of 1,800 people. And I have never, there's nothing in my life that has been more impactful in my ongoing recovery and well-being than preparing for and delivering that TED Talk. And because I felt so passionately about it, I went on to develop a workshop where I teach the storytelling methodology to anybody that makes eye contact with me, basically.
And explain that. So if somebody makes eye contact, like, what do you mean by that?
So I'm not shy. And
now, okay. Now, Robyn, what? This is breaking news. Robyn is not shy.
News alert.
And I just feel so strongly about giving people the tools and sharing the tactics that really helped me to find my voice and stand up to the stigma around mental health issues, that I will literally talk to anybody anywhere about it. And I will, give them my card, I will give them my phone number, because it's so profoundly changed me. And something that I can tell you is that, traditional talk therapy is a great treatment approach for many, many, different illnesses. But it doesn't work wholly for everybody. And, what I found after my I could have 5 PhDs. That's how much time I've spent in therapy. But just sitting with myself and preparing and telling my story has unlocked so much freedom and possibility for me.
Robyn, so tell us, if you will, what are some of the main differences between the traditional professional patient therapy session that takes about 50 minutes versus how you wrap storytelling into the recovery process?
Yeah, that's such a great story. That's such a great question. Really, coming to terms with my story and not being ashamed again of the stories that shaped me has really created so much freedom and so many connections and mostly compassion for myself. And, if you think about storytelling, stories have been an essential driver of change throughout human history. And we know that there are remarkable benefits of sharing your story. So emotional, autobiographical storytelling can be a path to truly owning your story. And it can also lead to more cohesive teams and organizations for anybody that's interested in organizational performance. But what I have found and what the research supports is that a well-known benefit of storytelling is finding your own voice. And what does it mean to find your own voice? It means learning how to express yourself and learning how to think about what has happened to you in a way that makes sense. It gives you an opportunity to make meaning out of your experiences. And go ahead.
Robyn, we often hear that at times a therapist gets almost as much out of session as the patient does. How would you teach a therapist, a counselor, a professional to embrace the storytelling concept of treatment?
It's a really good question. I don't have the only empirical evidence that I have that this is a methodology that works is my own. But I would encourage, therapists and all different treatment providers to be curious about storytelling and how it might be, an extra tool that they can bring into the office in their sessions with their patients.
Robyn, how did you develop the techniques that you teach to other people about creating a story that they can share? Did you do a patchwork of what you heard and researched, or did you use that as a springboard to create your own technique and tools?
So I was trained in the methodology that is used to train and prepare all TED speakers. And what I did is, over time, I supplemented that methodology with what I found to work for me as well. So, for example, when I work with an audience, I'll talk to them about the job of a storyteller isn't to give it all away. The job of a storyteller is to walk your audience safely from point A to point B, just like a service dog does for a human. And I say in my workshop, and I have a picture of a service dog up on the screen, the service dog walks its human across the street safely. They don't do the hard work for the human. The human doesn't saddle the service dog like a pony and get a free ride. The job of the storyteller is to lead you safely through the story.
That's a real insightful explanation and a really good metaphor. I think everybody can visualize what you're trying to explain. Was that something that you designed yourself, or is that part of the TED Talk treatment as well, the storytelling?
That's something that I came up with myself. And I think it really resonates with a lot of people.
Robyn, when we face mental health issues today, it seems to always be done in a very serious way. But as we were talking last night, we began to talk about favorite food, and ribs came up, and we were so on board with that. And then for some reason, you throw okra in instead of
okra's good.
with ribs.
What, fried okra? Yeah.
Oh, Lord. So it seems like, is there a place for humor in storytelling and the treatment process? And I know
that's a good question.
I know we're about to go to break, so maybe we'll talk about that during our Facebook Live. And
yeah.
Actually,
I think we may even bring that up when we come back. I think that's a great point. And then also, Robyn, how do people get in touch with you? Do you have social media, all that kind of good stuff? So we'd love to hear that too. We are JP, Kathy, and the crew, and we come to you live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Super excited you have tuned in today, especially for our mental health moment. Patty and Steve are back in studio, so you never know what's going to happen. Oh my, Tuesdays at 8:34 will never be the same again.
Back in studio. We're so excited.
We love it. We love it. It's so great. It's so good to be amongst people, and especially people that you love and care about. So super excited that y'all are back, and so excited that we have Robyn on the line. We'll be right back on 1160 AM, KBDT News Talk Sports. All right. Yeah, Robyn, so when we get back, definitely, because we have a very short segment when we get back, so we want to make sure that the listening audience hears how to get in touch with you and all that kind of good stuff. This is great stuff, and such a very unique perspective on all of this. And I wonder, is this going to be kind of the wave of the future, Robyn?
I think it is, and I think it's the wave of the future, and the future is happening now. I think that people are really seeing the benefit of giving a voice to their stories and sharing it with the world and having other people hold it with you.
Yep.
Robyn, I know I wanted to get into the humor aspect a little bit, because a number of times,
and I want to make sure we discuss that when we get back, because I think that's very important.
Absolutely. There have been a number of times when I've helped young women get into treatment for their eating disorders, and I don't leave it at that. I go see them when they're there. There was this one young woman who I've embraced so much, and the first time I saw her, we walked in, she sits on the floor and looks at me and says, "Well, come on now," and I had my suit on at the time. So we sat on the floor and we played cards and we laughed and we joked around, and that just seemed to help so much. So really want to embrace that a little bit. And of course, you have some incredible resources you want to share as well at the end of the show. Is that correct?
Awesome.
Yeah, and I love what you just shared about literally just like meeting her where she was. I think that's so helpful, and it probably made her feel so safe and cared for. So kudos to you for that. awareness. Sometimes when I'm working with people as a coach, I'll give them Play-Doh or I'll give them markers and things to play with. And I think when you invite an element of playfulness and humor into the space, it takes down barriers and creates more connections.
You want to talk a little bit about the work that you do as we get ready to go back into the show? Whatever you do right now that excites you, that you want to share right now.
The thing that excites me the most is kind of what I'm doing right now, talking about storytelling and how impactful it can be. And I also love coaching people through figuring out how to tell their own story. I do a lot of organizational and individual coaching, and just get so excited when I move a person or an organization along that change curve.
So you teach storytelling in addition to areas around mental health, or primarily around mental health?
I teach storytelling to anybody. So I talk about that storytelling can be for, personal mental health or even for business reasons. What we know is that, when you put a story around a number, a story around data, people are going to remember that data point a lot more than if you just give them the data point.
So, yeah, that's true. So how has storytelling changed over centuries?
Oh, and we're about to get back on. Good morning and welcome back to JP, Kathy, and the crew here on 1160 AM, KBDT News Talk Sports. Currently sunny and 86 in the Dallas area, headed towards a high of 100. Yes, you heard me correctly. We'll have a low tonight of 67, so enjoy that. But in the meantime, stay hydrated while you are out and about. Then, don't miss Wayne Allen Root, Raw and Unfiltered this afternoon from 5 until 8, only on 1160 AM, KBDT News Talk Sports. And we are super excited to have Patty and Steve back in studio. They are with Something for Kelly Foundation and the Morgan Foundation, and COVID, we're throwing it out the door because, we're hearing more and more stuff like, what the heck? Why were we apart all this time anyways? So we're super excited to have y'all in studio. And then Robyn, right before the break, Steve had asked with your, with the storytelling, is it okay? And how do you put humor into this?
Well, I'm a natural storyteller who can make an audience laugh or cry. And my last name is Shumer. And I have a great sense of humor.
Oh,
or humor.
Yeah.
So I really capitalize and make meaning out of everything through humor. I'm very playful, and I think that there is definitely a place for humor and playfulness in every story.
So, Robyn, talk a little bit about humor and dark subjects. How do you walk the line? How do you strike that balance between a very, maybe sometimes depressing topic and kindly putting humor in without offending?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, in my workshop, I walk people through a framework about going back and forth. So, almost think about like playing table tennis or tennis on a court. And I walk the audience back and forth between maybe something serious and then something light, serious and light, to keep them engaged, but also keep them connected and not in a dark place for too long.
Yes, very, very helpful. You talk about teaching the audience how to tell stories. Would you be willing to do something like that with one of our organizations here, Something for Kelly, or jointly with Something for Kelly and the Morgan Foundation, where we could do some kind of a conversation or a webinar around that, and then we could also invite JP, Kathy, and the crew to join us via whatever method that you would consider the right one?
Yes, and I would be offended if you didn't ask. So yes.
I don't want to offend you, Robyn.
Well, no, I love this, and as a matter of fact, your message is really resonating with the crew. Michelle has said, "Thank you, Robyn, for sharing your story. My oldest daughter had a food issue a few years back, but it was because it was the only thing around her she could control. But she has overcome it in the last year and is doing great now. So I think the more people know that there are success stories. I mean, we know the reality of it, but the more success stories and the more people like you who, and again, and Michelle for being willing to talk about it. I think a couple of years ago, part of the problem is nobody would mention it. And so you had all of these families and all these people dealing with this, but nobody would talk about it. So then you feel like you're alone, and then you feel like there's something wrong with you, and you don't want to say it to anybody. So good for you for getting out there and talking about it.
Robyn,
I know.
Go ahead.
In a sense where what happened in our house stayed in our house, and that doesn't serve people very well.
Yeah, yep. So, Robyn, we are wrapping it up real quickly, and what we need to do is make sure that you have time to tell us about the resources that might be available and how people would get into contact with you if appropriate.
Sure, thank you. So people can visit my website at robynshumer.com. It's ROBYNSHUMER.com. There's no C in Shumer. I've checked into so many hotels, and they're like, sorry, we don't have a reservation. And it's just
okay. There's no C.
Yeah, so it's robynshumer.com. And, there's a couple people that have really big. There's
I think you're cutting out just a little bit, Robyn. If you can stay with us after the show, you're cutting out just a little bit, but I think this is fantastic, and we encourage you to go to JP, Kathy, and the crew. I am posting Robyn's information right now. It's Robyn Shumer, no C, and Robyn with a Y.com. Get out there, and if you feel like she can help, let's jump on that.
For Nita, 800-931-2237.
Perfect.
And then if anybody's interested, I know a couple of great women, Emmy Anderson and Michelle Dickinson, that are both doing amazing work.
Well, Robyn, thank you so much for being on today. Everyone have a blessed day, and we will talk to you tomorrow on Wednesday. I forgot what day it was there for a second. I was about to say Thursday for Money in the Bank with Frank, and I'm like, no, it's Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Wow, that's one thing that COVID-19 is jacked with me. I don't know what. I'm like, wait, what day is it?
There we go.
Okay. So, Robyn, we're still on with Facebook Live.
Okay.
Robyn, in fact, can you repeat all the resources you just said? Because, things zoned out a little bit. So, give us those again.
The phone number and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm Robyn Shumer, ROBYN, Shumer, SHUMER.com. And then, I think NAMI has some really great support, and people can reach them at 800-950-6264. NITA also has some great resources. They've got text to help, they've got live chatting, and their line at 800-931-2237. And I've got two female friends and women leaders, Michelle Dickinson and Emmy Aronson, who both provide great organizational and personal coaching and resources to people that are trying to really change the way organizations and people think about mental health and talk about resiliency and really think about compassion. And if anybody was interested in learning more about them, they can just connect with me, and I'll fire off their websites to them.
Robyn, that's
very helpful for people. Very much.
And we have a couple more minutes, I think, that we could, and our time on air goes so quickly. I'm grateful that Kathy and JP allow us a little bit of overrun time. This I would have loved to have asked you while we were live, but could you say what kind of advice would you give your younger self about mental health in general, maybe eating disorders in particular? What would you, now looking back with this wisdom, share?
Yeah, such a profound question. You know, if I had to talk to little Robyn, I would tell her that, you know, we end up believing the thoughts that we think. They become beliefs, but beliefs are just really a thought, and I can choose differently. I can choose not to have the thought that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not thin enough, or that I have to look a certain way in order to be successful. And I would also challenge little Robyn to, you know, trick her neurotransmitters. You know, I think it's for every one thought that you have about what could go right, there's 8 for what could go wrong. And I would work with little Robyn to find that balance, you know, a lot younger than I did.
I noticed that the advice that you would give would be primarily looking and reflecting and thinking about how you view the world, as opposed to asking somebody else for ideas or help or whatever. And I think that really is a very great way to end this, by saying, really look to yourself, be reflective, what is your consciousness, and how is that going to impact you going forward?
Very well said, Patty.
Robyn, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, next week on the Mental Health Moment, at the same bat time and same bat channel, we're going to have a guest being supplied by Acadia Healthcare, and we're going to talk about mental health and African Americans, of course. We're coming up to Juneteenth.
Yep, excellent.
And you know, it's such an important topic that needs to be addressed.
And now more than ever, yeah, that's very good. Well, thank you, Robyn. We appreciate you so much. And feel free to hop on JP, Kathy, and the crew on our Facebook Live feed. I'm about to post it and make it public and shareable, so you can get on there. You can put any information you want. I've put your website on there 3 times, so there you go.
That's great, Kathy.
So, so just please feel free to continue the conversation. Put any phone numbers or any other organizations like NAMI. Put those links on there, because not only do we post this, make it public and shareable, but then Steve and Patty do the same thing, just with the 30-minute segment.
Robyn,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining with us this morning, sharing your time, sharing your personal story, and we will connect and find a time where we can share the opportunity for you to help JP, Kathy, and the crew learn how to tell their story. We can expand this and help to destigmatize mental health.
We would love to do that. So, Robyn, any help you can give us, any way we can all collaborate on that, we're all over it.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
And the ribs will be on the smoke as well.
And we will have okra. Pickled okra is good too, FYI. I'm killing Steve over here.
Killing me.
Thank you, Robyn.
All right, Robyn, you rock. Thank you.
Talk later. Bye-bye.
All right, love y'all. Say bye to Facebook.
Adios.
Put your handsome face in there, Steve. See, I said handsome face.
Can you grab that first here? Kathy, so good to see you.
I know, it's so good to see y'all. Oh, mwah.
We kept saying how much we wanted to get back, and then when we actually got back, it's like, oh my God, of course we needed to get back.
Yeah, it's a whole different vibe when you get to come in the studio.
It is, totally.
It really is. Love y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, sweetie.
Okay, y'all.